All right, hello and welcome to today's webinar presentation, An Introduction to Digital Selling Best Practices with Julio Viskovich and myself, Chris Ralph. Julio, are you there?
I am here. Thanks for having me today, Chris.
All right, excellent. Digital selling, let's get started. Uh, Julio, can you explain in like one short sentence what is digital selling in your opinion?
Yeah, to me, I think digital selling, at least to me in the B2B sense, is leveraging social media and digital channels as another layer over a pre-existing sales process. Obviously, with the goal being to identify prospects online, nurture them with the right content, and ultimately move them from prospect status towards a close throughout the buying journey.
All right, awesome. Julio, if you quickly want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, for everyone out there, my name is Julio Viskovich. I am the Vice President of Marketing at rFactor, which is a social selling technology and platform that enables organizations to approve content, share content online, and ultimately close the funnel with close the loop with some great reporting and metrics. You
Awesome.
can catch up with me at linkedin.com/in/social selling. Always open to new connections.
Great. My name is Chris Ralph. I'm the founder and president and a digital marketing expert at Boulder SEO Marketing. We're a boutique SEO and online marketing agency here in beautiful Boulder, Colorado. And Julio and you and I met about a year ago at a conference, speaking there, and we have since teamed up very successfully in a few webinars and other conferences. So I'm very excited to do this presentation today with you. Why don't we get started here? Okay. So I recently authored an article for a website called Social Media Examiner. It was entitled "How to Encourage Employees to Share Content on LinkedIn." So this will tie into this whole presentation. I think we need to get, we all work for somebody or we have employees. We might as well tap into that asset. And, we spend so much money on developing content. Let's make sure that content actually gets seen out there. So we'll talk about that topic today. Let's quickly take a look at the agenda. We'll talk about the case for implementing a digital selling, in quote, an employee advocacy program. Then let's talk about how to create a ripple effect out there. A quick word about LinkedIn and why it's one of the most important social media platforms out there in terms of professional content, right? Then your LinkedIn profile, first impressions matter. We'll cover the most important steps on how to optimize and create a LinkedIn profile. Then we'll discuss how to amplify content on LinkedIn. Briefly talk about LinkedIn groups. And then Julia will take a look at how to potentially automate the process. And then hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for questions and answers. All right. So the case for social media employee advocacy programs or digital selling programs. Julio, are companies missing out there and why?
They are definitely missing out, Chris. I mean, if you and I think, I mean, how we do our shopping today, or how we decide what we're going to eat for dinner, or what restaurant we're going to go to, we go to things like Yelp and TripAdvisor. Why do we do that? Because we trust what third-party folks had to say about that restaurant or that location. And this is no different, right? As people, we're under the same scrutiny. If we're going to do business with someone, first we all obviously want to know that, they're competent, they add value, that we might have common ground, and that I'm going to like this person to engage in such a long-term relationship. So, I mean, I think by not having a proper professional presence on LinkedIn to start, that's missing out on a potentially huge opportunity to create a valuable first impression, to somebody. And I think going even beyond that, when it comes to sharing content, we trust third parties. We trust people. We trust human beings. We don't trust corporate logos or brands. So the more we can get our employees to share content on our behalf and do it genuinely and authentically, then that's huge. That makes such a bigger impact. And the numbers, I mean, they're across the board. 7x, 10x, whatever it is. Your message is more likely to be engaged with if it comes from a human being versus a corporate logo or a corporate handle or page. So I think, yeah, if you're not activating your employees yet, you're missing out on a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. And I need to mention implementing a program like that and getting, asking employees to participate, it has to be optional. Optional. I mean, you cannot force your employees to participate in this program, but you can, incentivize participation. I mean, this can be very successful for the company and boost the company's bottom line, and employees could potentially get bigger bonuses, etc. So there's
Mhm.
definitely ways to get people on board.
And Chris, I think you said it right on, right? I think when you said it has to be optional, right? But although I do think that it's time to make a cultural shift, organizations who want to be digital at the core, as you start to onboard new employees and as they start to come onto the company, actually consider issuing them a Twitter handle or issuing them a social channel that they should be active on. It's just like a phone and email. Can you imagine today starting at a company and them saying, no, you don't have a phone, you have to just scream, or you have to like use a carrier pigeon or something like that? It's crazy, right?
no,
Regardless, social's a new channel, and we have to start giving it to our employees and having them use it properly, along with the right training and policies. And I think good companies who are thinking ahead and being innovative are starting to think that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the world has changed. This is reality now. And whether or not you like it, as a company, you should embrace social media and digital selling. All right, let's take a look at how we're going to create a ripple effect. I mean, it's very simple. Let's say, even if only a big company, 30 employees get on board, they help share content to, let's say, an average of 100 LinkedIn connections, right? This potentially means that 3,000 people could potentially see and engage with the content that's being shared. And if you think about, Julio, you guys work with large companies. I mean, they have hundreds, thousands employees. I mean, the possibility for this content to be distributed, it's mind blowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're being, very, very conservative and moderate by just saying, an average of 100 connections, right? That's very conservative. We could easily jump that up to 1,000 if you think, LinkedIn plus Twitter plus Facebook, and really expand that. So this multiplier effect or ripple effect is something that brands need to take advantage of. Getting stuck in your own messaging from an echo chamber standpoint of just coming out of your corporate handle, it's broadcasting, it's one to many. Activating your employees creates an opportunity for them to have real engagements and to make a real difference with people who are in their trusted networks. So being more human and moving your brand towards being more human, and taking advantage of this ripple effect could potentially allow smaller companies with small marketing budgets to really take a bite out of the big guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about probably the most professional social media platform out there, and why do we need to use LinkedIn as part of this process? Well, you see the numbers. I mean, numbers don't lie. LinkedIn is growing tremendously every day. Thousands of professionals sign up, add their profiles to LinkedIn. It's user generated content. It's up to date. One out of every three professionals on the planet is now actually on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has become a content marketing platform where people share and read content, right? But of course, you cannot forget about platforms like Twitter, Facebook, etc. They're also very important, and you're gonna show some nice examples on how your platform works later on in this presentation. But hands down, LinkedIn is considered one of the most effective platforms for B2B lead generation. Would you agree with this, Julio?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I think that's probably the place that I would start. Always building myself up foundationally with having a profile and being active. But I think Twitter is really making a big run these days because it's providing that personal element to it, right? I mean, we all have the business to business. We get that information. Where did you go to school? What's your history, etc. But Twitter gives us a peek into what people do on the weekend, what they like to do, what they like to read about and share. And that's some of the most valuable information, not only for your communications to new potential prospects, but also for building rapport in that first conversation. So I definitely agree with LinkedIn being the leader, but being closely followed by Twitter and also using these other channels are very important as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's say you mentioned LinkedIn profiles just now. Um, it's very important if you implement a LinkedIn employee engagement program or digital selling program. Here are a few tips on how your employees should optimize their LinkedIn profiles. You definitely need your vanity URL. Professional picture. It's all about first impressions, right? Make sure to set the correct industry description. Make sure you have a nicely updated summary section where you also talk about, your company. What do you do there? How the products or services potentially. Make sure every company nowadays has YouTube videos or other digital assets. Add those rich media assets to your summary section. LinkedIn makes it really easy for you to do that. Then, of course, update your experience section. Link your current position to your LinkedIn company page. There's actually a lot of SEO value in that, but that's a whole different discussion. And then, of course, optimize your contact information. Sorry, Julio, anything to add here?
No, I think that's a really, really good summation. But let me ask you a question, Chris.
Hmm.
You mentioned claiming your vanity URL. I think that's really important because obviously it looks way better than the one LinkedIn gives you by default, but it also allows you to start branding yourself, right? Maybe you want to have the same Twitter handle or the same Facebook URL. What do you recommend though if you can't get your name? Because I know I've dealt with a lot of people who said, "Hey, my name's pretty common. It's already gone. What can I do after that?"
Gosh, that's a great question. You know, I would actually potentially do something like, Chris and then my middle initial. I mean, I want to have my name in my
Mhm.
LinkedIn vanity URL, but, like you did, you could claim social selling, which sort of defines what you do, who you are. So I don't like when people claim a URL and then it's like Chris Ralph, 11 or something like this. Try to include your, middle initial or something that, I don't like numbers in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good point.
that's my personal take on it.
Cool. No, that's great.
All right, let's take a quick look at how to share and amplify content on LinkedIn. Let's take a look at the company assets. Company assets include LinkedIn company pages and showcase pages. Very easy. Somebody has to, create a company page and also maintain it. Very simple. Right there, share and update. If the company publishes a new blog post, put a nice post out there that talks about the blog post, put the URL in there, and share it with the followers. Very easy. Same thing goes with LinkedIn showcase pages. And I know a lot of people actually they don't know about showcase pages. They're sort of like a subset of LinkedIn company pages, but they have their own very URL. For example, I claimed search engine optimization training here, and this URL is now off the table. Nobody else can claim this LinkedIn showcase page URL. So I definitely recommend claim your showcase pages. You can claim up to 8 showcase pages, and then publish relevant content for that product or service that you'd like to promote in that showcase page. All right, and then of course sharing and amplifying content through your LinkedIn profile. Very simple right there. Click on share and update. Put in again, you want to promote blog posts, potentially press releases, anything that's of interest to your followers or connections on LinkedIn. Right there. plug it in and share. And then, very important, everybody now has sort of like their own blog, so to speak, on LinkedIn. You can publish a post. Simply click on publish a post, and boom, this window will open where you can now create a blog post. This blog post will then be announced to your followers or connections on LinkedIn, and it's a great way to promote content that's being created as well for your company. Any thoughts on this, Julio?
Yeah, I think this has killed a lot of the blog sites that have been out
Yeah.
there because I know personally I haven't blogged on my personal for quite some time, just for the simple fact that the reach LinkedIn provides for you out of the gate with your post is unmatched. And the better thing, when I get on top of that, if you're connecting properly with your prospects and buyers, then they're the ones that are going to see that. That's phenomenal. So yeah, I think this is a great place to start showcasing your content.
Yeah. And then, ask your employees, hey, go and visit those LinkedIn company pages and showcase pages and your colleagues' profiles, and share, comment on,
Absolutely.
the content to make sure that it ends up on their stream as well.
Well,
So,
let me ask you this, Chris.
yeah.
This is a question I get all the time, and I think it's quite valuable to bring up right now. Is well, what if I don't have the time to write my own content? Can I still leverage this? What can I do if I can't write the content myself?
Yeah, so you can grab content that's being published on your website, but it's very important to make a note at either at the top, right at the beginning, or at the end, that this piece of content resides on, your company's website. Put a link back to it so that Google understands that it's not duplicate content. But there's nothing wrong with publishing that content on your, LinkedIn long form publishing platform. Yeah.
Hmm,
Great
great.
question. Okay. Let's real quick talk about LinkedIn groups. They're actually, as we speak, they're sort of being rebranded by LinkedIn. They have become extremely spammy. So they're trying to regain control over groups and make them more applicable. You can join up to 50 groups. There's sort of like micro communities. I enjoy participating in groups because you can have really good conversations. Don't go in there and just spam people. Make it applicable, but it's a great way to share your company's content as well to potential prospects, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. That said, Julio, is there, I mean, all that we discussed so far, it's all manual labor. It's really hard to get people on board with this. Is there a way to automate the process, like a good way to automate the process? And I think I'm going to hand it over to you. I'm going to make you the presenter, Julio.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let me know
Yeah,
once.
Chris. Can you see my screen?
Let me see. I can. Yep.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what we do. So imagine that. Our fact, we are a technology company who's created a web-based platform called SocialPort, and it's essentially built for both employee advocacy and digital selling programs, whether your company is large or small. Of course, it's available across mobile, tablet, and PC. And really, what we do, and I'll actually show you what we do, is provide one central area for each employee that they can log into and access your company's approved digital content. It's not a spot for them to be marketers. It's not a spot for them to go out and find and curate their own content and imagine or pretend that they know exactly how it fits into the brand and the strategy. It's a place where you as a marketer can set up a unique view for each employee. So if you have a salesperson who's focused on technology, then they should have a view that has technology content so that they can build value in that area. Versus if you have a salesperson who's, say, focused on the energy vertical, then they should have a very much a different subset of content available to them. And that's what SocialPort does. It provides folks the ability to come in to see really easily what their company has said should go out today, and to be able to share that across multiple different social networks, including all the ones we've been talking about today. And I think that's really what employee advocacy is, right? Is the ability to amplify content, to be able to share it to your trusted network on behalf of the brand, but also be able to add some authenticity to it and to be able to add context to it. And I think that's very important as well. But when we shift from just sharing content and amplifying it, and we start to talk about digital selling, we start to move away from just sharing content and actually monitoring and listening and engaging with prospects. And this is typically when I work with B2B sales teams. We talk about projects like this where we can identify who potential buyers are, who potential prospects are across different social channels. And in this case here, right, you can see my dashboard. Not only did I have access to all my company's content, but I have a ton of accessibility into various other elements of social selling. So here I have my Twitter feed up, and I'm out there looking around, identifying people that are potential prospects. And the great thing about what we've built here over at Socialport is we've built the ability to identify someone that may be a prospect. We have the ability to immediately, with a couple clicks, push that data into our CRM system to start tracking the ROI and the business value of sharing social content and having our sales team activated on social media. The problem, though, is Twitter and some of the other social networks don't give us great data all the time. As you can see here, we have first name and last name filled out, and that's about it. There's no other information. I would definitely not want to push this into my CRM system, certainly. So what we've built at R Factor is a unique engine that allows us to identify and append data to the contact record before we push it in. So we've identified Jeremiah Oyang. We've just clicked on that button, and within a fraction of a second, it's populated this entire lead record with the company he works with, his email address, the city he lives in, his title, as well as links to all his social channels. So now at that point, I'm ready to push that lead directly into my CRM system, whether it's Salesforce, whether it's Dynamics, or whether it's a smaller SMB-focused CRM system as well. We're now ready to have a great data record pushed in there. So I think this is really where our platform shines, Chris, and for everyone on the line, is providing that spot where everyone can find, identify content, share it out, and then ultimately engage and have that one-to-one human interaction. But also from a company standpoint, we need that to be tracked, and we need to understand the value that social is giving to our organization, and in particular, our bottom line and our revenue. And our platform provides insight into that and the ability to execute on those.
Great. Actually, I have a question. So you can basically ask your employees to give you permission to post on their behalf, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things that we do with some of the programs we've worked with in the past, particularly around important announcements or events. That's a really important thing to do, is have your employees opt into a program where certain pieces of content can be shared directly through their social channels.
Okay, because I know I've implemented now quite a few LinkedIn employee engagement programs, and the biggest reason why these fail is because people don't get on board, or they get excited at the beginning and then all of a sudden they lose interest, they don't share content anymore. So I mean, this is an amazing way to actually keep the program going.
Yeah, of course. And you hit it on the head. I mean, it's all about adoption and making sure that they see the value in the program after it gets going. I've seen a lot of programs start where somebody might be just doing the posting for them, but ultimately it needs to land in the hands of the individual. And what you mentioned is bang on. There has to be a way to drive the what's in it for them. And I think part of what we do as well is provide leaderboards and drive internal competition to provide that necessary extra kick to drive adoption.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna take control back here. I'm gonna share my screen again, and boom, let's go to our very last slide here. Let me know when you can see the thank you and the Q&A slide. This was a very short and sweet and fast-paced presentation. I know there's so much more, Julio, that we can discuss, right? But we want to purposely make this very short and sweet. We're available for, you can contact us directly, connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on Twitter, send us an email. Julio, why don't we take a few questions before we wrap it up here? Let me
Yeah,
see.
that's a great idea.
What's the most important thing to getting a LinkedIn employee engagement program started? Wow, great question. You need to have a champion. You need to have somebody, I mean, you need to conceptualize the program, but then really somebody has to drive the process. You know, it's going to be the internal champion that gets people excited, keeps an eye on things, make sure, you know, people actually do what they're supposed to do. So that's probably the most important thing. Julia, do you want to take a question?
Yeah, absolutely. What is the difference between employee advocacy and social selling or digital selling? Yeah, great question. I think employee advocacy is usually the starting point before you make it to a digital selling program. Employee advocacy is usually how you get your foot in the door and dip your toes in the water a little bit by just having your employees essentially be mouths on behalf of the brand. Essentially, they would be just repetitive voices sharing content that you're putting in the queue, but you're not asking them to engage or be a human to human engager or one to one on behalf of the brand. You're just simply providing them with content to re amplify. Whereas when you move into a digital selling program, it usually involves the sales team. Usually that's who starts or are the sole individuals in that program. And that usually involves a little bit of added engagement and one-to-one communication. So not only are they sharing the content and re-amplifying the brand messaging, just like we talked about in employee advocacy, but they're also now strategically social listening, identifying prospects, monitoring competitors, having one-to-one conversations, and adding individuals into their CRM system and into their sales process to take offline to use with other channels. So I think that's probably a good summation of the difference between the two.
Awesome, awesome. How often should we post to LinkedIn? It sort of depends. I mean, I recommend at least at least once a day, like personal status updates. If you use the LinkedIn long form publishing platform, you know, I recommend at least every other week, but it has to be applicable, high quality content. Julio, any thoughts on posting frequency?
Yeah, I think it's just important to test, right? You hit that nail on the head, Chris. I mean, right now there's an overflow of content, but there's still an abundant need for very good, valuable content. So I think if you're posting once a day, that's plenty as a good guideline. And then it's important to just sort of test, maybe try two one day, or spread them out and see if you get more engagement. But I think it's important to be consistent. So I'd say and suggest at least following that one post per day guideline, and then ultimately, if you go into LinkedIn groups, that's ultimately extra there. But one post a day is good.
Awesome, awesome. Let me see. How does somebody get started with R Factor? Walk us through the process real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our Factor, it's a web-based platform, right? We have a number of different ways to get in touch. So I would suggest heading over to the website, which is rfactor.com, RFACTR, and getting in touch. I'm happy to deliver a demo at any time. And of course, you see my LinkedIn contact information there as well. Get in touch. Happy to set up a demo and a chat, and look forward to it.
Awesome. Okay, Julie, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. Any last thoughts, last tip, best practices?
No, I think when you're starting in an advocacy or digital selling, what I recommend as an individual is finding out where your prospects, your buyers are, where you want to make a biggest difference. If that's scouting out LinkedIn groups, if it's scouting out different hashtags on Twitter, the most important thing is to just get there and start listening. Even before you're ready to engage and talk, get there and figure out what people are talking about. What language are they using? Who are the influencers in those particular groups? And get a lay of the land before you start participating and do it strategically. And I think that's some good advice that anybody starting should follow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people they confuse social selling with social spamming. I mean, I can
Hmm.
now pretty much tell, right, when I get a new connection request on LinkedIn, I can tell you exactly, okay, if I connect with this person, like 2 seconds later, I'm gonna get a salesy message. And it's
Yeah,
such a turn off. It's like, come on, I'm actually interested in when I connect with somebody, I take my time to learn about them. And then if I feel that, I have a good offering for them, I try to see if I can engage with them in a like a non-salesy way. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, Chris. And I think ultimately the goal is to do what you and I did, right? We met online. We actually then met in real life. We
Yep.
did work together, and now we continued that relationship and work together on a regular basis. And that's the goal. It's not to hard sell. It's to build a relationship and add value over time. And if you're using it the opposite way for social spamming, then that's a surefire recipe to get unfollowed, blocked, and even reported.
Yeah. I guess my key takeaway here is like, you meet online, but then take it offline. Meet in person. Essentially, social. It's like a one-to-one thing. It's like meet in person, and then great things will happen. So that's what's working for me. That's what's working for you, Julio. Hey, Julio, I had a blast. I'd like to thank you, and let's do this again sometime very soon again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Chris, and thanks everyone for joining.
All right. Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.